So part of this morning's hearing is to really get our witnesses' take on what direction we need to be doing, what efforts that the committee needs to be following with regards to implementing the changes in the dairy title. So let us begin with the opening statements, and we look forward to hearing the witnesses' testimony. As we understand, as I stated, the dairy industry in America is facing a crisis. This hearing is just one part of the subcommittee's efforts to continually respond to those challenges. There will be subsequent hearings and workshops around the country as we work with the United States Department of Agriculture to implement the new title. Addressing these critical problems, I believe, is one of the highest priorities of this subcommittee. In speaking with our chairman, Colin Peterson, I know how much he feels that this is critical. We all represent important parts of America's dairy country. The United States, though, the reality is we've lost over almost 20,000 licensed dairies in the last 10 years. 20,000 licensed dairies. Nearly every day it seems another national news story about the family farmers making tough choices having to sell their dairy. They don't do it by choice. My family's been involved in the dairy industry for 3 generations. I know how families feel. The dairy is a part of their sum and substance. And in California, we have the nation's top dairy producing states, dairies that have been passed down from generation to generation, including the one I grew up on. So this issue I have a lot of personal reflections on. But let's be clear about the facts. The dairy industry provides nearly 1 million jobs in the United States, an economic impact of over $200 billion. In my district alone, dairy contributes over $2 billion to the local economy. When we lose a dairy farm, we lose those jobs, we lose the investments that the farm provides. As I said, we worked hard in the last farm bill to make changes in the dairy safety net. Yesterday, I met with the United States Department of Agriculture Undersecretary Bill Northey, who told me that they are making progress in getting the new dairy margin coverage program implemented. This morning, as some of you may know, the United States Department of Agriculture will announce an online decision tool that will let farmers estimate how the dairy margin coverage could work for them. And that's welcome news because we're pushing them to get this process out there. As soon as later this week, we hope the USDA will send out letters to dairy farmers that participated in the margin protection program and let them know what premium refund or credit they will be able to receive. These updates are good news, but unfortunately the expected start of the dairy margin sign-up is still June 17th. I appreciate the priority that Secretary Perdue and the USDA has put on implementing the dairy program, but I know time is of the essence. For many of these dairy men and women, they are looking as to how long they can survive. And therefore, when they've had to endure years of low margins, when their input costs exceed their receipts on a monthly basis, how much longer can they hold on? And of course, the loss of the dairies over the last 10 years are a reflection of that loss of equity, that loss of dairies. When we look at the dairy industry across the country and the regional challenges that we face, I've learned clearly in the 15 years I've been in Congress that one program doesn't fit all farms equally. And so when we made the changes last year, we tried to take that into account. That's why I strongly supported the more risk management agency insurance products for dairy farms and made sure that farms could participate in both the dairy margin coverage and livestock gross margin insurance for dairies. Both Chairman Peterson and our previous chairman, who is here, worked very closely in trying to make sure that we kept all the options in the menu. In addition to a thorough Farm Bill implementation oversight, the subcommittee will also focus on other issues impacting our dairy farmers. And what are they? Well, they're trade and labor. U.S. dairy is fighting hard in global markets to face these challenges. We are hoping that progress is being made on the reauthorization of the USMCA or NAFTA 2, whatever you want to call it. But Mexico is a top destination for the United States dairy industry, and it needs to be maintained and, I believe, expanded. And while the U.S.-Mexico agreement allows Canada to keep the bulk of their current domestic system under a supply management scheme, which we actually looked at here some 5 years ago, recent International Trade Commission economic analysis indicated that the proposal forecasts, if we implement the new United States-Mexican-Canada trade agreement, that would provide an additional $300 million, they estimate, additional dairy exports under the agreement. Frankly, I hope we can do better. That's positive, but I think more can be done. So the last area that is of critical need to our dairy men and women around the country is a reliable workforce. Trying to come up with an immigration solution for agriculture is long overdue. Some of us have been laboring on this for many, many years under multiple administrations. I've been calling for comprehensive immigration reform. I don't think that's going to happen in this Congress, but maybe we can get something done incrementally to provide a more stable workforce for the dairy men and women and agriculture industry in general. We in Congress need to find ways to address these challenges with both current and future workforce needs, including access to a year-round visa program. And whether or not modification in the H-2A actually is a way to do that remains to be seen, but there are things that need to be done, clearly. I know from my personal experience in generations in California, working on a dairy was always considered a high-skilled, valuable, good-paying job, considered a blue-collar job, basically, among agricultural workforce because it's year-round, and there are a number of benefits that come to working in a dairy. So I hope a legislative fix that we are working on will come to fruition. I take to heart Secretary Sonny Perdue's call for legislative reform, and I hope that he will continue to be engaged in this effort as we work on a plan. So with that said, we have our ranking member here, and I would defer to him for an opening statement. And we look forward to doing right by our dairy farmers, our men and women who work every day, because cows are milked 365 days a year, to put that food on America's dinner table every night. So I look forward to the conversation that we have, and Ranking Member Rouser, I will defer to you for an opening statement.